So I'm in the gym doing chest today and I start feeling my phone go crazy, like back-to-back buzzing, and then when I try to unlock it, my screen froze for a second because I had so many notifications coming in. And my first thought was maybe there's a national emergency or some celebrity just died and everybody's freaking out. But no, I got 30 texts of screenshots from On3 and 24/7 Sports that Dylan Raiola just got crystal balled to Nebraska. The same Dylan Raiola who was dubbed the top high school quarterback in America and had Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day, and Kirby Smart breathing down his neck trying to lock him in. The same Dylan Raiola who pulled up to a Nebraska basketball game and heard thousands of fans chant his name when they showed him on the video board. It was actually just about a year ago now that he decommitted from Ohio State and reopened his recruitment. And if you remember my thoughts back then, I really felt like Nebraska had a chance. Matt Rule was solid and had a great relationship with the family. Dylan could walk in and compete for the job on day one without fear that there'd be another five-star guy coming in to take his spot. The problem was Nebraska was still in total rebuild mode. Nobody knew what the offense would look like or if the O-line would be better. The defense was a work in progress and the expectation was nowhere near how Tony White's group actually performed. And the idea that a five-star QB would risk his future playing with a team who hadn't shown signs of life in years was just too much to overcome. Now we see what the offense could be if they had a good QB, and if they did have a true passer, they'd be able to go out and get good skill players from the portal. And the defense that's been a liability for so long worked out their issues, and they could finish in the top 15 nationally again next year since they'll have at least 7 or 8 starters returning. Now, the point is, Nebraska's grown as a program a lot in the last year. They've grown a lot since the last time Dylan took an official visit, and now this week, they're breaking down what they can offer him today that they couldn't offer him 9 months ago. So here's what happened. A few hours ago, Steve Wiltfong of 24/7 Sports put out a crystal ball for Dylan Raiola to flip his commitment from Georgia to Nebraska, and it's significant for a couple reasons. One, because Wiltfong's one of the most respected recruiting experts in the game, but two, because Steve Wiltfong is a very close family friend with the Raiolas, and my understanding is that he talks to Dominic on a weekly basis, if not more. And out of respect, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I can tell you for a fact that Wiltfong isn't putting out any info about either Dylan or his brother Dayton unless he's talked directly to them and their dad. That one crystal ball told me all I needed to know, but then this shit went off the rails, and then a ton of tweets started getting posted by Nebraska players and commits, and then I checked my DMs, I made a couple phone calls, heard about some group chats with Dylan this morning, and I was pretty comfortable titling this video, Dylan Raiola is going to be Nebraska's next quarterback. But how the hell did we get here? Georgia's elite. They were a title contender this year, and they just lost Brock Vandagriff to the portal, which meant Dylan's slot as QB2 as a true freshman was wide open. Carson Beck would leave after 2024, and Dylan could compete for the job going into 2025. But let me not understate that key word, compete. Julian Lewis is the #1 quarterback in 2026, and Georgia's showing him a lot of love right now. And I'm not sure who the top guys in the 2025 class are, but I'm pretty certain Georgia's talking to them too. Dylan was expected to be the #1 player in Georgia after his senior year, but a choppy high school season with no state championship, and now it sounds like he's viewed somewhere closer to the 7th or 8th in state. Kirby Smart still wants him, but has the conversation changed and has the vibe shifted from you're our guy to you're one of our guys? And you don't have to be a rocket scientist or make the phone calls I made this afternoon to know that Dylan and his dad don't like that word compete. He played at multiple high schools in multiple states, and there was more to that than just what type of offense they ran or who the wide receivers were. He was committed to Ohio State, but he decommitted because the QB situation over there was likely changing from their original conversations. We're talking about a kid who Wiltfong rated as the #1 QB in his class as a freshman in high school, and who's been told forever that he's the top player in the country and the undisputed #1 quarterback in this cycle. He's not going to a school where he has to compete. He's not playing at a program where he's not the #1 priority or the top guy on that campus. That family has a confidence about him and a belief that he's the answer wherever he goes. So schools like USC, Ohio State, and Georgia that may not value him the same way his dad expects him to never stood a chance. Nebraska provides a totally different experience. They'll go after great players, but what are the odds they bring in another 5-star QB? 0. And if Dylan's performing, do they need to hit the portal for a QB battle? Obviously not. He can come to Lincoln with Kyle McCord and sit for a year to get comfortable in the offense. Then, as a redshirt freshman or even a sophomore, take over as the full-time starter and get after it in the Big Ten. He doesn't care what school he plays at. He doesn't care about NIL money. He cares about early playing time and getting to the NFL. And if a 5-star QB goes to Nebraska, there's no doubt he's QB1 with no pressure to get replaced by any more talented or flashier name a couple years down the road. I got to talk to Dylan a couple times, once at the national championship game in LA and then again at the Michigan game back in September. He's polite, he's well-spoken, and above all, he doesn't carry himself like a high school kid. He's ready-made. He's a college quarterback today. He's massive and he's already physically developed, so he doesn't need a year to get his body ready for Big Ten play. He can go right now. His quarterback coach is Jeff Christensen, who has him doing the same intense workouts that he puts Patrick Mahomes through. Also, quick note on Christensen, who's one of the most respected and successful QB coaches in America. It sounds like he might be in Lincoln right now talking with Matt Rule. So who knows where that goes or if he's got some suggestions for a QB coach to hire to help that room take another step forward. But it is something I'll be watching. Now, let's get back on track. Raiola's the real deal. Rule could promise him something that Ohio State, USC, and Georgia wouldn't. Rule could tell him that he's the future QB1 at Nebraska and that this job's his unless he screws it up or he decides to leave. So what's that mean for the other quarterbacks we've been hearing about? First, you've got Daniel Kaelin, the 3-star from Omaha, who helped a ton in recruiting and basically saved this class by committing after they put all their eggs in on Dylan back in January. The good news is this staff's not scum. They're going to honor that scholarship, and Kaelin can still come to Nebraska to compete for that job in the future. Next is Kyle McCord. I know I talked a lot about Dylan wanting to make sure this job was his, but he's not stupid. He knows you need a quarterback room, and McCord coming in wouldn't make him shy away. I would still expect McCord transfers in and starts this season, but if Raiola's ready to go, we could see a QB competition. I just think it's pretty unlikely that a true freshman beats out a multi-year starter from Ohio State, and the odds are that McCord leads the way for his senior season, and then he passes the reins on to Raiola in his redshirt freshman year. And last is Chubba Purdy. I already thought there was a chance that he might bounce given his injury history and the fact that they're going after guys in the portal. But this feels like it'd be the nail in the coffin. If he was super confident and he wanted to compete with McCord and Raiola and potentially take that number 2 spot, I'm sure he could come back and do it. But I just think the odds are that he hits the portal and he goes to play at like a Big 12 or an ACC school where there's going to be a lot more opportunity for him to win that starting job. The biggest question I know a lot of people are going to have is why the hell is this dude coming here after the offense was so bad under Satterfield? And I think there's 2 ways to look at this. One, the offense was inept. Satterfield and Rule don't know what they're doing. And until there's a really good play caller, this offense isn't going to be as efficient as it should be if they're going to win in the Big Ten. Or 2, the offense was a mess because they had too many injuries and there wasn't a solid QB on this roster. If they get healthy, land a couple big-time passers, and solidify that room for years to come, they'll be able to add a running back and a couple receivers from the portal, and then they're going to take a massive step forward next season. I choose to believe the latter. If McCord was Nebraska's QB last year, we're talking about an 8-win team at the very least. And that's with all the injuries and having to start true freshman receivers. If you get McCord and Raiola, or even just one of them, you'll get more talent at any of those positions. And the offense that was so bad in the first season can at the very least rank in the top 60 next year. I saw Adam Carricker just dropped an interview with Daniel Kaelin where they talked about his future at Nebraska and competing for the QB job. And I haven't watched it yet, but I'll be really interested to hear where he stood before all this news broke today and how it impacts his view on the program going forward. So if you want to check out that interview, make sure to head to carrickerchronicles.com where you can find all of Adam's YouTube videos, or just click the link in the description box below and it'll take you straight there. It's crazy that just a month ago, we were all so pissed off and frustrated with how things were trending. The fan base, myself included, felt like the staff missed so big at QB, and there wasn't a single person on the planet who could have predicted that heading into signing day, we'd be talking about the 2024 QB room being Ohio State starter and one of the top 5-star QBs in the entire class. My entire perspective's changed in just a few days, and I know I'm not the only one who's impressed or excited for what's to come in the next week. So if you want me to go live and talk about what's going on with recruiting tomorrow or maybe the next day, hit the like button now to help us get to 1,000, and I'll make sure I'm available so we can do some live chat Q&A. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Do you believe that Dylan Raiola is coming to Lincoln, or are you still hesitant to believe it until he signs the papers? If Dylan comes, do you think they still get McCord, or do you think that pushes them away? And what about Daniel Kalen? Does he sign on, or does he look for a new path? I think all three come in. I just don't know what to think about Chubba Purdy. But the good news is, even if he does leave, this room's going to be more loaded than I could have ever imagined. And I'll be feeling pretty damn good about Matt Rhule's future. But that's all I've got for today. So until next time, thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Go Big Red.